Howdy folks, this is Jim. I live in Texas, but I'm at the entrance to the Battleship Alabama Park. I'm in the process of driving from Austin to Cape Canaveral, Florida to watch the launch of the SpaceX NASA Commercial Resupply Mission number 2. This is my update number 2 as of February 27th, 2013. The NASA is telling us that the weather outlook is still 90% favorable for the launch. SpaceX hasn't reported any anomalies so far. I just wanted to go over real briefly some of the things to look for as they launch the rocket. Their steps to launch are approximately as follows. The launch is at 10:10 a.m. Friday, March the 1st. So about 15 hours before the launch time, they will actually power up the Falcon vehicle and the Dragon. And if it goes like the CRS-1 launch at about maybe the day before, 12 to 18 hours before, they will erect the launcher, the rocket on the launcher. Once the countdown starts at T-minus 10 minutes, the launch basically becomes autonomous. The Dragon and the Falcon talk to each other and decide whether they feel like flying that day or not. They have an instantaneous launch window. The Falcon does not have the energy to give you a 10-minute launch window because it's more like a minivan. The space shuttle was more like a NASCAR racer, a NASCAR truck racer. So with the SpaceX, either they get it at 10:10 on the 1st or they do it again another day. Once it launches, some things to look for. In just a minute or so, it will pass max Q, which is the place where the greatest aerodynamic forces are imposed on the vehicle. Then of course you'll get the stage separations. You look for the nose cone to separate. That's an important step. It's amazing how many times vehicles have been lost, not because of the fundamental design of the vehicles themselves had any problems, but mainly just because little things like fairing separations that's a very hard to predict environment, and it's easy to get it wrong, I think. So we look for the nose cones to separate, of course the boosters to separate. As the Falcon X proved last time, one engine can blow up and it'll still put the Dragon into orbit, and supposedly 2 engines could fail and it could still just burn longer and put the Dragon into orbit. I don't believe this one has a hitchhiking payload on it. I'll talk more about the payload in another update. Then real briefly, the next thing to look for is at about 10 minutes it'll go into orbit. The Dragon will. That'll be all that's left of it by then. The next thing that's real important, I think it's about the 11 minutes after launch, they will open the solar arrays. Many vehicles have been tripped up because the solar arrays didn't deploy correctly. So that's a real important step. Once it's in orbit with the solar arrays deployed and the SpaceX people on the live video feed seem happy, then we're in good shape for about 2.5 more hours. The next critical thing that has to happen is they have a sensor package that's used to track the space station and to help them capture it, or drive it to the station so the station can capture them. That's covered up by a door. That door has to open. It's called the Guidance and Navigation Control Door, or the GNC door. If the GNC door doesn't open, then the whole thing's over right there. So those are the things to look for. Max Q, nose cone separation, correct operations of at least most of the engines, correct staging, deployment of the solar arrays, and we won't see it on the live video feed. They'll turn it off well before 2.5 hours, but hopefully at about the 3-hour point we'll see someone from SpaceX tweet that the GNC door is open and the GNC system is working. At that point they're pretty much golden to get to the space station. The next critical milestone will be approaching the space station and being captured by it. So this is Jim at the Battleship Alabama. You may wonder why I put an F4 in the background, because I spent almost 1,000 hours in the back seat of one of those, and I just saw it and I said, well, I'll just put it in there. They call that, the back seat of that airplane, the pit, and that's called the pit for a good reason. 1,000 hours is a long time to spend back there. This is Jim, Battleship Alabama State Park, on my way to Kennedy Space Center.